Zrelik's four fingers tapped nervously on the glowing star chart as he stared at the edge where the map simply stopped. The young alien cartographer had graduated at the top of his class just 3 cycles ago, and already he had found something that made no sense. "Why does every map end here?" he whispered to himself. The bright blue border marked the edge of human space, a relatively small section of the galaxy. Beyond it was nothing. Not unexplored or dangerous, or even unknown. Just blank space, as if the galaxy itself ended at humanity's doorstep. Zrelik's skin rippled with confusion, the pale green surface changing to a troubled yellow pattern. He had been taught that the Galactic Mapping Guild had charted 78% of the Milky Way. Yet here was a clear sign that large sections were missing. The door to the archives slid open with a soft hiss. His supervisor, senior cartographer Velix, entered. The older alien's eye stalks swiveled toward Zrelik, then quickly focused on the section of map he was studying. "Still at work, young one." "The day cycle ended 3 hours ago," Velix said, his voice oddly tight. "Sir, I've been comparing our maps with historical records," Zrelik said. 200 years ago, before humans joined the Coalition, our maps extended far beyond this border. What happened to those regions?" Velix's breathing tubes flattened against his neck, a sign of distress among his species. "You should focus on the current mapping project of the Orion sector," Velix said, deliberately looking away from the screen. "The past is complicated." "But sir, it's our job to maintain accurate star charts. I found at least 17 star systems that used to be on our maps but have been removed, and every single one is beyond human territory." Velix moved quickly to Zrelik's console and shut it down with a rapid series of commands. "Listen carefully," he said, his voice barely audible. "Some questions are not meant to be asked. Some boundaries are not meant to be crossed. The maps end at human space for a reason." "What reason?" Zrelik pressed, his curiosity overwhelming his respect for authority. "Drop this line of inquiry, junior cartographer. For your own safety." Zrelik watched in shock as his supervisor left the room, moving with the hurried steps of someone afraid of being followed. Over the next few days, Zrelik tried to access the historical records again, only to find his security clearance revoked. When he asked other cartographers about the map boundaries, they quickly changed the subject or walked away. One evening, as Zrelik was leaving the guild building, a shadow moved in the corner of the parking area. He turned to see an older alien he didn't recognize. The stranger's exoskeleton was scarred in multiple places, with one arm ending in what was clearly a military-grade prosthetic. "You've been asking about what lies beyond human space," the stranger said. It wasn't a question. "How did you know?" The scared alien moved closer. "There are reasons we don't map beyond human space, young one," he whispered, his voice raspy as if damaged long ago. "Reasons written in the blood of those who tried." Zrelik felt a chill run through his body as the stranger placed a small data crystal in his hand and then disappeared into the shadows between buildings. Zrelik's hands trembled as he inserted the data crystal into his personal reader. The screen flickered to life, revealing hundreds of old star maps. Maps that showed territories far beyond human space. "This can't be right," he whispered to himself. According to these ancient charts, the Galactic Coalition had once mapped nearly twice the area shown on current maps. Entire sectors had been wiped from official records after humans joined the Coalition 2 centuries ago. Zrelik created a simple program to compare the old maps with current ones. The results shocked him. Over 3,000 star systems had been erased from official records. All of them lay beyond what was now human territory. The next morning, Zrelik arrived at work to find a crowd gathered outside his supervisor's office. Security officers were sealing the door with bright yellow barrier tape. "What happened?" he asked a coworker. "Velix is dead," the alien replied, voice quivering. "They found him this morning. His breathing tubes were cut." Zrelik felt sick. An accident. Security says it was murder. They found human boot prints in the blood. That evening, as Zrelik sat in the station's dining hall picking at his food, someone slid into the seat across from him. He looked up to see a human woman with dark hair and sharp eyes. "You're the junior cartographer who's been asking about map boundaries," she said. Zrelik's skin flashed warning colors. "Who are you?" "My name is Nelia. I work at the human embassy." She slid a security badge across the table. "And I might be able to help you find answers." "Why would you help me?" Zrelik asked, suspicious. "Not all humans agree with keeping secrets," she said, leaning forward. "Some of us believe the truth should be known." Before Zrelik could respond, his communication device buzzed. An anonymous message appeared on the screen. "Stop asking questions, or the next funeral will be yours." He showed Nelia the message. Her expression hardened. "You're in danger here," she said. "There's a human trade vessel leaving for Earth tomorrow. I can get you on board." Earth? The human homeworld. The idea both terrified and excited him. If you want to know why the maps end at human space, that's where you'll find answers. That night, Zrelik packed a small bag with his few belongings and the data crystal. As he prepared to leave his apartment, he noticed a shadow moving outside his window. Someone was watching his home. Using a maintenance tunnel he'd discovered as a curious student, Zrelik escaped without being seen. Nelia was waiting at the arranged meeting point with falsified travel documents. "The ship leaves in 30 minutes, she said. "Once we're on board, you'll be under human protection." "Can I trust you?" Zrelik asked. Nelia's face remained unreadable. "You can trust that I want the truth known as much as you do. For now, that will have to be enough." As they boarded the massive human vessel named Horizon Seeker, Zrelik couldn't help feeling he had crossed a line from which there was no return. Behind him lay the comfortable life he had known. Ahead lay the mysterious human worlds, and perhaps the answer to why the galaxy itself seemed to end at their borders. The Horizon Seeker hummed with activity as Zrelik followed Nelia through its massive corridors. He had never been on a human ship before. Everything seemed built for creatures slightly smaller than himself, making him feel awkwardly large. "Your quarters," Nelia said, stopping at a door. "Stay here until I come for you. The captain knows you're aboard, but the fewer crew members who see you, the better." Alone in his room, Zrelik studied the humans through the small viewing window in his door. Physically, they weren't impressive. Most alien species in the coalition were stronger, faster, or had natural defenses humans lacked. Yet something about them made other species uneasy. On the third day of their journey, alarms blared throughout the ship. The floor shuddered beneath Zrelik's feet. Nelia burst through his door. "Pirates. Put this on." She handed him an environment suit. "If the hull breaches, you'll need it." They rushed to the ship's security center. Through the view screens, Zrelik saw 3 smaller vessels surrounding the Horizon Seeker. Laser fire flashed between the ships. The human captain, a tall woman with gray-streaked hair, was calmly giving orders. "Activate defense pattern Sierra. Prepare boarding countermeasures." What happened next amazed Zrelik. The human crew moved with perfect coordination, as if sharing one mind. Their faces showed no fear, only cold determination. One of the pirate ships managed to attach to their hull. Security feeds showed armed invaders cutting through an airlock. "Intruders in Sector 7, reported a crew member. "Release the hunter drones," ordered the captain. Small floating devices rushed through the corridors toward the breach point. Weapons fire echoed through the communication system. Then, something unexpected happened. The security feed showed one of the pirates staring at a wall marking, a simple human insignia. His alien face transformed with sudden recognition and terror. "Retreat," the pirate screamed to his companions. "This is a human military vessel." "But the cargo," another pirate protested. "It's a human ship. They're them, the boundary guards." The pirates fled in panic, abandoning their mission. 2 of their ships disengaged immediately. The third wasn't fast enough. The Horizon Seeker's weapons cut it in half. One injured pirate was captured. As medical staff treated him, he babbled deliriously. The darkness. They hold back the darkness. What waits beyond human space? The captain turned to Zrelik, studying him with cold eyes. You're the cartographer asking dangerous questions. Nelia told me. I just want to understand why the maps. There's a reason we're left alone out here on the edge, she interrupted. It's not for our protection. It's for yours. Later, in the ship's mess hall, Zrelik noticed how other alien crew members, traders and diplomats from across the coalition, kept their distance from the humans, watching them with a mixture of respect and fear. What did that pirate mean about the darkness? Zrelik asked Nelia quietly. She glanced around before answering. Earth is 7 days away. When we arrive, you'll begin to understand. But be warned, some knowledge can't be unlearned. Zrelik looked out a viewport at the star-filled blackness of space. Somewhere out there, beyond human territory, was something that terrified even hardened pirates. Something that perhaps only humans were willing to face. The Horizon Seeker hummed with activity as Zrelik followed Nelia through its massive corridors. He had never been on a human ship before. Everything seemed built for creatures slightly smaller than himself, making him feel awkwardly large. Your quarters, Nelia said, stopping at a door. Stay here until I come for you. The captain knows you're aboard, but the fewer crew members who see you, the better. Alone in his room, Zrelik studied the humans through the small viewing window in his door. Physically, they weren't impressive. Most alien species in the coalition were stronger, faster, or had natural defenses humans lacked. Yet something about them made other species uneasy. On the third day of their journey, alarms blared throughout the ship. The floor shuddered beneath Zrelik's feet. Nelia burst through his door. Pirates. Put this on. She handed him an environment suit. If the hull breaches, you'll need it. They rushed to the ship's security center. Through the view screens, Zrelik saw 3 smaller vessels surrounding the Horizon Seeker. Laser fire flashed between the ships. The human captain, a tall woman with gray-streaked hair, was calmly giving orders. Activate defense pattern Sierra. Prepare boarding countermeasures. What happened next amazed Zrelik. The human crew moved with perfect coordination, as if sharing one mind. Their faces showed no fear, only cold determination. One of the pirate ships managed to attach to their hull. Security feeds showed armed invaders cutting through an airlock. Intruders in Sector 7, reported a crew member. Release the hunter drones, ordered the captain. Small floating devices rushed through the corridors toward the breach point. Weapons fire echoed through the communication system. Then something unexpected happened. The security feed showed one of the pirates staring at a wall marking, a simple human insignia. His alien face transformed with sudden recognition and terror. Retreat. The pirate screamed to his companions. This is a human military vessel. But the cargo, another pirate protested. It's a human ship. They're them, the boundary guards. The pirates fled in panic, abandoning their mission. 2 of their ships disengaged immediately. The third wasn't fast enough. The Horizon Seeker's weapons cut it in half. One injured pirate was captured. As medical staff treated him, he babbled deliriously. The darkness. They hold back the darkness. What waits beyond human space? The captain turned to Zrelik, studying him with cold eyes. You're the cartographer asking dangerous questions. Nelia told me. I just want to understand why the maps. There's a reason we're left alone out here on the edge, she interrupted. It's not for our protection. It's for yours. Later, in the ship's mess hall, Zrelik noticed how other alien crew members, traders and diplomats from across the coalition, kept their distance from the humans, watching them with a mixture of respect and fear. What did that pirate mean about the darkness? Zrelik asked Nelia quietly. She glanced around before answering. Earth is 7 days away. When we arrive, you'll begin to understand. But be warned, some knowledge can't be unlearned. Zrelik looked out a viewport at the star-filled blackness of space. Somewhere out there, beyond human territory, was something that terrified even hardened pirates. Something that perhaps only humans were willing to face. The professor's house shook as something heavy landed on the roof. Dust fell from the ceiling as footsteps pounded above them. "This way," Nalia ordered, pushing the bookshelf aside to reveal a hidden passage. Professor wiped the systems. Yamamoto nodded grimly and pressed a sequence of buttons on his wrist device. Screens throughout the hidden room flickered and died as data was erased. Zrelik followed them through the narrow tunnel, his mind racing. "Who's after us?" "Coalition security." "Worse," Nelia said, her voice tight. "Infiltrators." The tunnel led them to an underground garage where a sleek black vehicle waited. They climbed in, and the vehicle shot forward, merging into a transportation tube that carried them away from the city. "I deserve answers," Zrelik demanded once they were safely away. Nelia nodded. "The Boundary Guard is a secret human organization. We monitor the borders of human space. Most humans don't even know we exist." "Guard against what?" Zrelik asked. The professor spoke softly from the back seat. "When humans first developed faster-than-light travel and left our solar system, we encountered something ancient and terrifying. Something that had been watching us for a very long time." "The Watchers," Zrelik remembered. "That's one name for them," Nelia confirmed. "We fought a war that nearly destroyed our species. But instead of retreating back to Earth, humans chose to stand their ground. We didn't win," Yamamoto added. "Not exactly. But we didn't lose either. We contained them." The vehicle emerged from the transport tube into open countryside. Above them, the night sky blazed with stars. The Galactic Coalition already knew about these entities, Nelia continued. They had encountered them centuries before humans achieved spaceflight. They lost badly and retreated, abandoning huge sections of the galaxy. "So when humans joined the coalition," Zrelik began, "they were relieved to find someone willing to guard the boundary," Yamamoto finished. "We made an unspoken agreement. Humans would watch the border, and everyone else would pretend there was nothing beyond." Zrelik's skin rippled with shock. "The entire coalition knows. And they just leave it to humans." "Not the general population," Nelia clarified. "Just the highest levels of leadership. They fear what lies beyond human space, so much they'll do anything to avoid facing it." As dawn broke, their vehicle approached a massive mountain. A hidden entrance opened in the rock face, swallowing their transport. Inside was a vast complex humming with activity. Humans in uniforms similar to Nelia's moved with purpose through the facility. Screens displayed star charts and monitoring data. "Welcome to Boundary Command," Nelia said. "One of several such bases on Earth and throughout human space." A stern-faced human man approached them. "Operative Chen, your unauthorized extraction of an alien civilian has placed this entire operation at risk." "Director," Nelia responded, standing straight. This cartographer uncovered discrepancies in the official maps. He was already asking questions. Extraction was the only option. The director studied Zrelik with cold eyes. Then perhaps it's time he saw what we're really guarding against. He turned to Nelia. "Prepare a shuttle. You're taking him to the Sentinel." "The Sentinel?" Zrelik asked. "Our front line," Nelia explained, her face grim. "A space station on the very edge of human territory, the true boundary between known space and what lies beyond." The military shuttle cut through space like a knife. Through the viewport, Zrelik watched stars streak by as they traveled faster than light. Nelia sat beside him, checking weapons and equipment with practiced ease. "We'll reach the Sentinel in 1 hour," she said. "You should prepare yourself. What you're about to see, it changes people." After days of travel to the very edge of human territory, a massive structure appeared in the distance. At first, Zrelik thought it was a small moon. As they drew closer, he realized it was artificial. a colossal space station bristling with weapons unlike anything he had seen in Coalition space. "The Sentinel," Nelia announced. "Humanity's shield against the dark." Their shuttle docked inside a vast hangar filled with military vessels. Humans in combat armor moved with purpose, loading weapons and running drills. None of them seemed surprised to see an alien visitor. "This way," Nelia led him through corridors lined with heavy security. "Admiral Chen is waiting." They entered a command center filled with screens showing star patterns and strange energy readings. At the center stood a tall human woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. "So you're the curious cartographer," Admiral Helena Chen said. Her voice was firm but not unkind. "I'm told you want to know why the maps end at human space." "Yes, Admiral," Zrelik answered. "Show him," she ordered her staff. The room darkened. A three-dimensional star map appeared, showing territories far beyond human space, regions that didn't exist on any official Coalition chart. Before humans achieved spaceflight, the Coalition controlled most of the galaxy, Admiral Chen explained. Then they encountered something they called the Void Dwellers, entities that exist partially in our reality and partially elsewhere. "The Coalition fought and lost badly," she continued. "They retreated, abandoning a third of the galaxy to these entities. They erased these regions from their maps and pretended they didn't exist. When humans later developed FTL travel and appeared on the galactic stage, the Coalition saw an opportunity. They deliberately guided human expansion toward these abandoned regions. They used us as a buffer zone," Nelia added bitterly. "Yes," the Admiral nodded. "They expected us to fail, to be destroyed or driven back to Earth. But something unexpected happened." "What?" Zrelik asked, entranced by the story. "We fought back, and we didn't lose." Admiral Chen's eyes flashed with pride. "Humans have something the other species lack. We can perceive these entities in ways others cannot. We can see them as they truly are." Zrelik was trying to process this information when alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed as crew members rushed to battle stations. "Status report," Chen demanded. "Breach at Sector 7. Admiral," a young officer shouted. "Something's coming through." "All personnel to combat positions," Chen ordered calmly. "This is not a drill." She turned to Zrelik and Nelia. "It seems you'll get to see our enemy firsthand, cartographer. After 2 years of silence, something has breached the boundary." Screens around the command center showed a section of space where reality itself seemed to tear open. Something massive and shapeless began to push through the rift, something that hurt Zrelik's eyes to look at directly. "What is that?" he gasped. "That," Admiral Chen said grimly, "is why the maps end at human space." The command center erupted into controlled chaos. Officers shouted status reports, while Admiral Chen calmly issued orders. On the main screen, the tear in space pulsed and widened. "Deploy containment vessels," Chen commanded. "Standard formation." Zrelik watched in awe as 12 human ships moved into position around the breach. They fired strange energy beams that seemed to bend reality itself, creating a cage of light around the growing rift. "What is that thing?" Zrelik whispered to Nelia. "We call it a Void Dweller," she replied. "It's massive, shape-shifting, and can absorb both matter and energy. It exists in multiple dimensions at once." The entity pushed further into normal space, a writhing mass of darkness that seemed to swallow light. It had no fixed shape, constantly flowing and changing like liquid shadow. "The containment field is holding," reported an officer. "Entity is fully materialized in our space." Admiral Chen turned to Zrelik. "Normally, we would destroy it immediately. But since you've come all this way for answers," she nodded to her staff. "Bring the cartographer to Observation Deck 3. Let him see our visitor up close." Nelia led Zrelik through armored corridors to a small room with a reinforced viewport. Outside, suspended in the containment field, floated the Void Dweller. Up close, it was even more terrifying. Parts of it seemed to disappear and reappear, as if it couldn't fully exist in normal space. "Can it communicate?" Zrelik asked. A technician handed him a translation device. "We've developed ways to interpret some of their signals, but be careful what you ask." Zrelik hesitated, then spoke into the device. "Why do you come to human space?" The translator crackled. After a moment, words formed, not as sound, but directly in Zrelik's mind. "Hunjir. Expansion." "Right." The entity's attention suddenly focused on Zrelik, ignoring the humans completely. A tendril of darkness pressed against the containment field near the viewport. "You, like others, blind." "Blind?" Zrelik asked, confused. "Humans, different. They see us. True." Zrelik glanced at Nelia, who nodded grimly. "It's true. Humans can perceive wavelengths and dimensions that other species cannot. We can see the void dwellers as they truly are." The entity's message continued. "Humans showed of not exist. Mistake." A chill ran down Zrelik's spine. "What does it mean?" Admiral Chen had entered silently behind them. "It means the Coalition knew about our perceptual abilities before they met us. They knew we were the only species that could truly fight the Void Dwellers. They placed us on the frontier deliberately," Nelia added bitterly. "Not as a buffer, but as weapons. As sacrificial guardians." The truth hit Zrelik like a physical blow. The Coalition had manipulated humanity, placing them in harm's way intentionally, knowing they were the only ones capable of seeing and fighting these creatures. Coalition uses humans to guard boundary, the entity confirmed. "We will take all, eventually." The containment field flickered as the creature pushed against it. Alarms blared anew. "Get him out of here," Chen ordered. "Prepare the dissolution cannon." As they rushed from the observation deck, Zrelik saw terror in the eyes of human soldiers. Not fear of death, but fear of failure. If they fell, there was nothing standing between the Void Dwellers and the rest of the galaxy. And the Coalition had known this all along. The Sentinel shook as its weapons fired at the Void Dweller. Zrelik stumbled down the corridor, following Nelia as emergency lights flashed around them. "Is this normal?" he asked, steadying himself against a wall. "No," Nelia replied grimly. They'd never breached containment before. They'd reached the command center where Admiral Chen was directing the battle. On the screens, the human ships surrounded the Void Dweller, firing concentrated energy beams at its writhing form. "Status report," Chen demanded. "Entity is weakening." "Admiral," an officer replied. "Dissolution rate at 67% and climbing." Something bothered Zrelik. Why would it attack now, after 2 years of silence? Nelia and the Admiral exchanged looks. "Perhaps because of you," Chen said finally. An alien cartographer asking the wrong questions drew attention. "The Void Dwellers have infiltrators too." Infiltrators. Zrelik felt cold dread creeping up his spine. "Like what?" "They cannot fully exist in our reality," Nelia explained. "But they can extend parts of themselves, influence minds, manipulate events." Chen nodded. "Only humans are immune to their influence. That's another reason the Coalition fears us as much as they fear what lies beyond our space." The realization hit Zrelik with stunning force. "The Coalition leadership is compromised," Chen finished. "Not controlled, but influenced, guided to make certain decisions. The mapping restriction isn't just to hide the truth from ordinary citizens. It's to limit human knowledge of the galaxy." "If we knew the full extent of Coalition space," Nelia added, "we might expand beyond our current borders. The infiltrators don't want that." A communication officer suddenly called out, "Admiral, emergency transmission from Earth Command." The main screen changed to show a grim-faced human in a high-ranking uniform. "Admiral Chen, Coalition forces have launched attacks against 3 human colony worlds. They claim we violated ancient treaty boundaries. Zrelik could hardly believe what he was hearing. They're attacking you, while you're defending them. The infiltrators must realize we're close to exposing the truth, Chen said, her face hardening. They're trying to weaken our defenses while we're distracted. The battle with the Void Dweller continued on secondary screens. The creature was shrinking, dissolving under the human weapons assault. We can't fight a war on 2 fronts, Nelia said. Not against the Coalition and the Void Dwellers. Admiral Chen made a quick decision. The Coalition needs to learn the truth. Operative Chen, take our alien friend back to his homeworld. Show them what we're fighting. My people won't believe me without proof, Zrelik protested. Then we'll give you proof. Chen reached into a secure compartment and removed a strange device. This detector was designed by human scientists. It can identify Void Dweller influence on other beings. She handed it to Zrelik. Start with your leaders. I suspect you'll find they've been kept in artificial technological stagnation by Coalition mandates, all to prevent you from developing the technology that might let you detect the infiltrators. Nelia led Zrelik toward the hangar. Behind them, alarms continued to sound as the Sentinel fought against the cosmic horror beyond the boundary. The real war isn't just against what's beyond human space, Nelia said quietly. It's against the ancient deception that's kept the galaxy blind for centuries. The journey back to Zrelik's homeworld was tense and dangerous. Coalition patrol ships were everywhere, searching for human vessels. Nelia piloted their small stealth ship with incredible skill, avoiding detection as reports of battles between human and Coalition forces filled the emergency channels. I still don't understand why the Coalition would attack humans now, Zrelik said. Even with infiltrator influence, it seems like terrible timing. Fear, Nelia replied simply. The Void Dwellers must sense that humans are close to revealing the truth. They're using the Coalition to eliminate us before we can expose them. When they finally reached Zrelik's planet, they landed in a remote area far from the main cities. The familiar purple skies of his homeworld seemed different to him now, knowing what he knew. How do we convince your people? Nelia asked, checking her weapons. Zrelik held up the detector Admiral Chen had given him. We start at the top. My uncle serves on the Planetary Council. Under cover of darkness, they made their way to the capital city. The streets were filled with news broadcasts about the human aggression against Coalition forces. No mention was made of humans defending the galaxy against unspeakable horrors. Zrelik's uncle welcomed him with surprise and concern. We thought you were dead. There were reports of your supervisor's murder, and then you disappeared. As they spoke in his uncle's private office, Zrelik secretly activated the human detector. A small light on the device glowed red when pointed at his uncle's chief advisor, who stood quietly in the corner. Uncle, Zrelik said carefully, what do you know about the territories beyond human space? The advisor stepped forward. Such questions are inappropriate during this crisis. Why? Zrelik challenged. Why is it inappropriate to ask why our star maps end at human borders? The room grew tense. Zrelik noticed his uncle looking confused, but the advisor's face hardened. Our species has been kept in technological stagnation, Zrelik continued. Did you know that? Coalition mandates have prevented us from developing advanced sensor technology that might let us detect certain things. The advisor moved toward an alarm panel, but Nelia was faster. She disabled him with a quick strike. What is happening? Zrelik's uncle demanded. Zrelik pointed the detector at the unconscious advisor. The device projected a hologram showing dark tendrils extending from the advisor's body, invisible to normal sight. This is what humans have been fighting, Zrelik explained. Infiltrators from beyond the boundary. They'd been influencing Coalition leadership for centuries. Over the next few days, using the human detector, Zrelik and Nelia exposed several infiltrators among his world's leadership. The evidence was undeniable. The news spread quickly to other worlds as more detectors were distributed. Species after species discovered the deception perpetrated against them. The coalition began to fracture as the truth emerged. But the chaos had a terrible consequence. With human forces diverted to fight the coalition, the boundary between known space and what lay beyond weakened. Reports came in of void-dweller incursions in unprecedented numbers. "We need to unite," Zrelik told a gathering of his planet's leaders. "Humans have been protecting us all along, and we abandoned them when they needed us most." A communication came through from Admiral Chen. Her face was tired, her uniform torn and burned. "The boundary is failing," she said grimly. "They're coming through everywhere. We need help, or all is lost." The skies above Earth were filled with the largest fleet ever assembled in the galaxy's history. Ships from dozens of species that had once been coalition members now fought alongside human vessels against the Void-Dweller invasion. From the command deck of the largest alien battleship, Zrelik coordinated the movements of the combined fleet. His cartographer training made him uniquely qualified to organize the three-dimensional battle against an enemy that attacked from all directions. "Sector 4 needs reinforcement," he called out. "Redirect the Thalaxian cruisers." Nalia stood beside him, relaying his orders to the human forces. In the weeks since the truth had been revealed, the galaxy had changed forever. The coalition had collapsed, replaced by a desperate alliance of species fighting for survival. "Admiral Chen's flagship is approaching the main breach point," Nalia reported, pointing to a display showing a massive human vessel moving toward the largest tear in space, a gaping wound in reality where void-dwellers poured through in terrifying numbers. "What is she doing?" Zrelik asked. "The concentration of entities there is too high." "She's deploying the new weapon," Nalia said grimly. "The one that uses human perceptual abilities." On screens throughout the command center, they watched as Admiral Chen's flagship released thousands of small devices. Each contained a human neural interface that broadcast the unique human ability to perceive the Void-Dweller's true form. For the first time, every species in the fleet could see the enemy as they really were and target them precisely. The tide of battle turned. Void-Dwellers that had been nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons began to fall under the combined assault. The tiers in space started to close as specialized ships sealed the breaches using technology humans had developed over centuries of standing guard. But victory came at a terrible price. Billions died across multiple worlds. Admiral Chen's flagship was lost with all hands after destroying the main breach point. Entire systems were left uninhabitable. 3 months later, Zrelik stood in the Great Hall of Earth, now the center of the new Galactic Alliance. As the newly appointed Grand Cartographer, he unveiled the first honest map of the Milky Way in centuries. "For too long, our maps ended at human space," he told the assembled representatives. "We were told nothing existed beyond. Now we know the truth." The map showed the true extent of the galaxy, including the vast regions still controlled by the Void-Dwellers. But it also showed human space not as the edge of civilization, but as its center, the heart from which the reclamation of the galaxy would begin. "Humans stood guard for generations without recognition or thanks," Zrelik continued. "They were our shield against horrors we refused to acknowledge. Now we stand with them." Later, as they walked through the memorial garden dedicated to those lost in the battle, Nalia shared a final secret with Zrelik. "We've discovered something about the Void-Dwellers," she said quietly. "They're not completely alien to us. Humans share a distant evolutionary connection with them." "What does that mean?" Zrelik asked. "It means humans aren't just unique in their ability to perceive the enemy," Nalia explained. "We may be the only species capable of not just fighting the darkness, but potentially understanding it. And one day, perhaps, healing it." Zrelik looked up at the star-filled sky, now seeming both more dangerous and more full of hope than ever before. The maps no longer ended at human space. The true journey was just beginning.